I'm gonna share with you some costly mistakes that I've made in the darkroom over the years so that hopefully you can avoid making the same ones. My intent is to have this video save you a lot of time and frustration. You see, I learned photography backwards in a high school darkroom all alone. I had a really cool art teacher who unfortunately didn't know anything about photography, but we did have a darkroom. And in her words, she said, just show me your work at the end of the semester and I'll grade you on it. And that was the beginning of a lifelong obsession for me. So the way I see it, if I learned how to print in a darkroom all alone by myself, then anyone can learn it. So here are some things I wish I knew before I started to print in the darkroom, and a few stories along the way. So if I was starting my whole printing journey over again, the first thing I would do is actually learn how to take a good picture. Knowing what a good negative looks like and how to actually take a good picture is the first step in making a good print. Like, it all starts there. Like I said, I did this all backwards. I knew how to make a print from some of the worst negatives before I ever had any idea what an f-stop, a shutter speed, ISO, any of that. I didn't know any of it. I had negatives. Some of them were from my father, so I had some decent ones, but the ones that I shot were just terrible. And I would go in and I would be like, I would manipulate, and I would actually get pretty good pictures from these terrible negatives. I mean, some of them were so dense you couldn't see anything through them on a light box, and some there was just like barely anything there. So these were not good negatives, but I did have a surprising degree of success with them, and I absolutely fell in love with the darkroom. So first and foremost, I would say spend some time getting to know your camera, understanding exposure and development, and how to actually take a good picture and make a good negative to print from. Now, once you do start getting some actually good negatives to print from, the next thing is to have an organizational system and start to take notes in a way of finding things and finding what you've done. Just get organized from the beginning. What I did was I kept on shooting and printing and shooting and printing without any rhyme or reason to where things were going. So one negative sleeve led to another, to a binder, to another binder, to another binder, which led to me having these negatives or images that I shot pop into my head that I shot like 10 years ago. And then I would spend an hour or two and sometimes not even being able to find them and giving up. So it was very frustrating, and I don't recommend this at all. But one day a few years back, I was trying to find a negative and I had just had enough, and I decided finally I was gonna come up with a system to where I would be able to locate and find things. So finally, with a good system in place, I have had some success, slowly progressing through the chaos of my past and getting those in place. And I think this might be a lifelong endeavor to actually get everything that I've ever shot in my system, but I'm pretty sure it will be worthwhile in the end. Therefore, I really wish I had an organizational system from the beginning for cataloging all my negatives, and a print log sheet and recording system for when I'm printing. So just get this set up from the get-go, and I promise you will thank me later. Just start small. I remember always wanting to make these gigantic prints, 16 by 20 and bigger. That was like my whole mission for some reason. So what ended up happening to me is, before I could really make a nice print, I was trying to print everything on 16 by 20 instead of learning how to make a nice 5 by 7 and then scaling it up, which is really easy to do. So especially today, I mean, paper has always been expensive, relatively speaking, but especially today, it just makes so much more sense to get good at printing small and scale it up. Like, a sheet of 16 by 20 paper is $5 plus. I don't even know, but it's expensive, right? So don't spend all your time trying to make these giant prints. Make sure you're learning on a small print first. This would have saved me a lot of money if I would have done this, and if I would have just put that money into Bitcoin or something. Do a few simple tests right from the beginning. Now, testing like film and papers, it's always been this kind of confusing thing where I didn't understand it, wasn't really sure if I was doing it right. And on top of that, some people said you have to test everything very scientifically, and other people were like, just don't test, just go make art. But here's the thing, both schools of thought are correct and have very valid points. And if I were to start from scratch today, knowing what I know now, I would definitely do a few simple tests right away. What I would do is pick one film, one developer, one paper, and one print developer, and match those things using my equipment, calibrating a system. This is going to give you a control and a standard for every stage. These are very simple tests that are going to save you a lot of time and frustration in the long run. And really all we're trying to do is make sure you get enough exposure on your film to print the shadows or put the shadows where you want them, and then also make the highlights of your film, the densities, easily printable on your paper. So a little bit of time spent up front here is gonna make the process just a lot more enjoyable, and you're gonna get better results just right off the bat. I wish I would have just had more patience. Learning a new skill, it just takes time. You're not going to be a master printer overnight. That's just not how it works. You do have to put in the reps. On top of that, your style and taste is going to change over time, even possibly from print to print. The really amazing thing about darkroom printing is the actual mood you're in can have a direct influence on how the final print looks, like if it's more contrasty, more moody, or maybe soft and subtle. Unlike a digital reproduction, a darkroom print actually defines what a one-of-a-kind work of art is. So just give yourself a break and embrace the process and let the artwork happen. So those are the things that I wish I had known before I started darkroom printing. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you're gonna love the next one right here.